Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another daily Marvel Snap video. So it is that time of month where we have a new season start, and this is going to be the official season, so this is going to be an extended season, but this is going to be the official season of the global release. So hopefully this one is really fun, hopefully it feels pretty fresh, but for today we do have a new season pass, which with that brings a new card unlock. And so let's go ahead and jump in, let's see what the new card is. Okay, and so it looks like it is Miles Morales, which was data mined. It does look like it comes in at the 4-5, which was kind of what was data mined as well. But we just never know for sure if that is what is going to actually happen. And so it looks like the effect is the same. So it is a 4-cost, 5-power card, but it gets the upside of if a card was moved last turn, this cost 1. And so this is going to be good. I think it's going to be kind of a trap. I think a lot of people are going to put this in a move heavy deck so that you can consistently trigger his effect, but you only need to do it once. So I think you only need maybe 1 or 2 movement triggers to be able to make usage of Miles. And so I have an idea for a deck to build with him. I am going to go ahead and unlock the season pass, and then we will build a deck around it. So let's go ahead and jump into the deck build, and then we will be right back. All right, so we did build a deck list with Miles Morales included, the Miles Morales Spider-Man. So what I wanted to build first was a consistent deck, something that doesn't necessarily revolve around Miles Morales, but it makes usage out of him. And so the best shell that I have for that is our aggro list. And so Miles Morales, I think in the long term, he's not going to be a deck defining card. I think he's going to be able to fit into several different decks. He's going to be pretty versatile. So really any deck list that runs like a Juggernaut or a Nightcrawler, Polaris, some kind of move component could get some decent usage out of Miles Morales. But I wanted to try and get a consistent list with him first. And so that is going to be our aggro list. And then depending on how quickly I can get this one up, I may do a second video today with something I have in mind that's a little bit cheekier. And so let's run through this deck list really quickly. First up, we have Sunspot. He's going to be an easy curve in card. We can drop him on the board if later we find that we can't drop cards, we don't have the resources to play. He's going to be able to absorb some of that additional energy, and we will retain that upside. And then we have Nightcrawler. Nightcrawler is going to be our main move component in this list. So Nightcrawler works really well in an aggro list. Any list that runs Angela runs Nightcrawler very, very well. And then it just so happens that Nightcrawler being able to move out of that lane will discount our Miles Morales. We can drop him on the board to either further buff up our Angela, compete for a secondary lane, and we just get quite a bit of upside from that interaction. Now, if we don't have Nightcrawler, or it gets destroyed, or we don't have it on the board, to be able to play Miles Morales consistently, we're going to have to rely on a location, something like Sanctum Sanctorum, something that moves the cards for us either after turn 5 or at some point in the game to be able to enable our Spider-Man. And then we can also rely on the fact that the opponents are most likely going to be running some move components themselves. At that point, that will discount our Miles Morales as well, and we can make usage out of that interaction. And then we have Angela. She's going to be a great build around card. If you're running a low mana curve, low energy curve deck, Angela is going to buff up. If you drop, let's say, a Nightcrawler in there and then move it out, you'll be able to buff her up one additional time. Typically, she will end up being a 2-cost, 7-power card. If you do the Nightcrawler interaction, she'll be a 2-cost, 9-power card, which is phenomenal for the energy cost. And then we have Scorpion. Scorpion is going to afflict the opponent's cards with -1 power. He's going to be a mid-range drop. He's not always going to be the best for us, but his impact is kind of like Iceman in that it impacts the board. We may not always see the full effect of that impact, but sometimes it can be enough to win us games. And then we have Mystique. Mystique is primarily going to want to copy Ronin, but she can also copy Iron Man as well. Those are going to be some really big power push options for her on that final turn. The ideal playline is going to include dropping Ronin on 5, and then dropping Mystique on 6 along with a Maximus to force the opponent to draw into additional resources, additional cards, therefore buffing up both her and Ronin in the process. And then we have Bishop. Bishop is a good card for any kind of aggro style list, a list where we are running a lot of cards on the board really, really quickly, and we're just flooding the board with those cards. And so he will typically be anywhere from 6 to 8 power in this list, which for a 3-cost card is pretty decent, and his upside can continue to grow over time, so if the game gets extended, he will be able to have an increased power level as well. And then we have Thor. Thor is going to shuffle a Mjolnir into the list. He comes in at a 3-cost, 4-power card, but his biggest upside is that uncertainty. The opponent, if they want to guarantee that they win that lane, they're going to have to buffer that lane with at least an additional 6 power. Because if they cap it out and we have Mjolnir, then we can still push power into that lane even after we cap it out. And it just offers that little bit of uncertainty for the opponent that makes it harder for them to play efficiently. And then we have Maximus. Maximus is going to be really hard to resist playing on turn 3, but very, very rarely will we want to drop this on 3. We want to be able to utilize this to help buff up our Ronin, plus we don't want to give them additional resources when they have time or turns to use them. And so if we drop Maximus, a lot of times that can allow the opponent to draw into their perfect combo piece, and we just don't want to make that happen. We want to be able to use this whenever they are not able to get the upside. And then we have Jessica Jones. After her recent adjustment, she feels pretty decent. She comes in at a 4-cost. After her Honorable ability, she will be an 8-power card, and so if we just play in a different lane for a turn, all of a sudden we have a pretty big board presence with the Jessica Jones. And then we have the newly released Miles Morales. If a card moved last turn, this will cost 1. This is going to be a pretty mid-range power push, but it might be enough to push a lane over that edge whenever you most need it. And then we have Iron Man. Iron Man is going to double the power at a location, and so we can throw this in the Miles Morales lane, in a different lane. This deck list is going to really focus on only pushing power into really only 2 lanes, and the other one is going to be pretty much a forfeit. And so Iron Man is going to have a very specific set of targets that he can go into to push that power level up over that threshold to allow it to be a win. And then we have Ronin. Ronin has the ongoing ability +3 power for each card in your opponent's hand. If on the very last turn we force them to draw 2 additional ones and they had 2 in their hand, all of a sudden this is a 12-power card. He has an incredible amount of upside and potential with this list, especially with the fact that we can drop a Maximus and a Mystique on that very last turn to essentially double the Ronin and increase its upside. But that is the rundown of the deck list. I am going to go ahead and jump into a couple of games. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, so first up we have Paco, and in our starting hand, we have our Sunspot, we have Thor, Maximus. We're actually going to go ahead and play Sunspot into the Gamma Lab. That is going to turn it into a Hulk on turn 3. We're not going to overcome a 12-power card with the Sunspot. And so they drop a Korg that is going to shuffle some inconsistency into our deck list, but I think it's fine. I think we're okay. If we draw into it before turn 3, we can always play that onto the board. And they did fix the Gamma Lab, so it's not going to, our Sunspot, any buff that he gains before he turns into a Hulk, it's not going to be retained. And so we're still only going to get a 12-power Hulk. We're not going to get a 14-power, 16-power, whatever that may end up being, which is kind of unfortunate, but it's okay as well. So I'm torn here. I want to drop Thor into Sinister London, but I don't want him to turn into a Hulk because there's a very good chance that we will be able to get bigger or more than a 12-power Thor. But that would require drawing into both Mjolnirs or playing one of them into Sinister London. Let's do the Bishop. With Sinister London, we tend to play less cards overall because the ones that we do play get duplicated. And so let's go ahead and play Bishop on 3. On 4, we can do a Thor. On 5, we can do Ronin. On 6, we can do a Mystique to copy the Ronin along with a Maximus to potentially force them to draw into 4 cards and make our Ronin huge. So with that and kind of thinking that play line through, we are going to go ahead and snap here. Let's go ahead and end this play. If they get a huge Gamma Lab, that's fine. I don't think that is the win condition, or I don't think that is what wins them the game. I don't think that changes anything. So they actually play their Bishop into Sinister London, but I find that if I play 4 cards into Sinister London, that's taking up 8 slots. And so then all of a sudden, there's a lot less opportunity to actually trigger and continue to buff up the Bishop. Board space becomes confined. And so in this particular scenario, I want to play Nightcrawler. That way, if we do draw into Miles Morales, we can enable him, but our Ronin is going to be bigger. Our Ronin, our Thor, our Mystique, they're going to be bigger. So let's go ahead and not play Nightcrawler. It feels really bad. Ooh, and they don't play Cosmo into Sinister London, interestingly. So do they have a card that they're wanting to trigger the vulnerability of as well? Interesting. And so now maybe we actually play Nightcrawler over into Gamma Lab. That way we try to avoid playing it here. It's interesting that they didn't go with Cosmo into Sinister London. That tells me they probably have some kind of vulnerability that they're going to want to trigger, but they're not going to be able to do it here anymore. So if we end up pushing Ronin here, he's free. So maybe they have an Enchantress. Maybe they have a Shang-Chi. I don't know. I don't know what they're planning here. I don't know what their plans are. We could drop Ronin into Gamma Lab along with Mjolnir. Ooh, Mjolnir feels really bad there, actually. Nope, we're going to go ahead and duplicate it. I've talked myself in and out of it so many times. We're going to go ahead and duplicate it. We're not playing Mjolnir this turn. We're going to kind of see where Ronan plays himself. And then maybe we can get some upside and he ends up playing somewhere else. I'm kind of afraid of like an Enchantress or a Shang-Chi. We're of course safe in the Gamma Lab location, but outside of that, these two lanes are susceptible to that upside. So let's go ahead and play Mystique. That will play 2 of them. Let's go ahead and play Maximus. That will play 2 of them. He will draw into the rest of the cards in his deck, which actually doesn't feel incredibly great. So we only get a little bit of upside. So let's do the 1 in Gamma Lab, and then we're going to go ahead and play Mjolnir into Sinister London. That way it'll copy. Hopefully Mystique copies maybe over here. I don't know. I think we're fine. I think we're overthinking it, trying to think of all of the possibilities. We do have priority, so we turn first, which is kind of unfortunate. But they play several of their cards. Our Maximus comes in. It draws in 2 of their 3 remaining cards. It buffs up our Ronin a little bit further. Our Mjolnir will buff up our Thor. If they have a... Ooh, actually, if this is a Shang-Chi... No, it's a Khazar. Okay. The Shang-Chi could have been the play, though. And so we win right and mid, right? My math is not terrible. He continues to get buffed up. Oh my god, it was just ticking away. I thought we lost. So the Maximus was able to help us draw and win actually these 2, because the extra 6 from that in each lane pushed us over the edge in these 2. Had they had a counter card, we wouldn't have been as fortunate. And that one's definitely not what you guys are here for. That is not the Miles Morales game. Let's go ahead and... It is a 4-cube game, but it's not Miles Morales. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one and see if we can get a good Nightcrawler Morales trigger. All right, so next up we have Morbid on You. And if you guys have not seen the live streams, on yesterday's lunch live stream, we did face off against Morbid on You. They did end up beating us. So this is a little bit personal. They had a really unique deck list that we got beat by. And so let's see if we can make a comeback here. And so speaking of the lunch live streams, during our last lunch live stream, we had a few people that helped support the channel. We had Alexander, who gifted a membership, and it's very much appreciated. Thank you so much, Alexander, for the support. And then we also had Pilk Enjoyer, who came in to troll the text-to-speech guy again, which is always very, very funny to see, very, very funny to hear. So thank you both for the support. It is very much appreciated. So we do have our Nightcrawler. We have Miles Morales in our hand. So I'm going to go ahead and play Bishop this turn. And then after that, we could play Miles naturally onto the board, but that feels bad. We don't want that, do we? Does he have a cool animation? He has an all right animation. Better than just flat going out. So I think we played Nightcrawler onto the board. I'm going to go ahead and throw the rock into the left-hand side just so that it's not in our hand, so that it can't potentially be pulled in by Grand Central. On the next turn, we will probably play Ronin. On turn 6, we may do something like a Mystique and something else. So maybe if we don't draw into Maximus, we'll be able to move Nightcrawler over. That way we can get the upside of dropping Maximus on turn 6. But I think for here, let's go ahead and do a Ronin. We're going to do Ronin in Central Park. Right now they have a pretty full hand size, and so we're going to get some benefit from Ronin here. They may have some rocks that they just flood onto the board, but we'll have to kind of see. The Hobgoblin does hurt just a little bit. Luckily, we have Nightcrawler, who's going to be able to move himself out of the board. Oh, and we should have moved our Nightcrawler. Ooh, it wasn't Iron Man. It was Miles Morales that came onto the board. We should have moved our Nightcrawler last turn, just in case. We come into a pretty constricted play line here. So we know that because of their wave, they're only able to play 1 card. So maybe they play something like a Dr. Doom that pushes power wide. We have Mystique, which should copy Ronin's ability, because Ronin was the last one that we physically played. It wasn't... Grand Central pulled a card in, but we didn't physically play it. So Mystique should still copy the Ronin's ability. We have Miles on the board again, not from our own fruition, unfortunately. But I think it will be enough for us to win this game. So they do a leader, which copies our Mystique, which doesn't do anything for them. Thank goodness for the Mystique play. It combats the leader beautifully. Very, very sneaky leader play towards the end there. Had it been really much else, it would have been really hard to come back and compete. Fortunately, the Mystique was enough to come up over their power level in Grand Central, just barely, mind you, but it was still enough. So let's go ahead and jump into the next one. We'll see if we can get a good Miles trigger without feeling like we're giving up too much potential in the process. All right, so next up we have Anime Freak, and we have Angela, so that's going to be a good card for us to drop on 2. If we draw into, ooh, interesting, they have Squirrel Girl. So I wonder if they're actually playing a destruction deck. We recently featured a deck list that had Patriot and Squirrel Girl, so that could be also what is happening as well. So let's go with Angela into nowhere. I think that's going to be fine. We can do our Bishop, we can do a Nightcrawler and then move him out. I think it's fine to do Angela into the nowhere location. Maybe we like cap it out with Ronin, that way it can't be combated. So it is, well, it still looks like a destruction deck, but that was kind of the idea behind our Patriot list. So we drop our Maximus, which is unfortunate. Ooh, they drop Death. So it is a full-on destruction deck. But because they drop Death, that is like their big late game power push. A lot of times they'll do a wave, they can drop Death, and then they can do something else in addition to that. And so I think because Death is gone, we are going to go ahead and snap early. I think that gives us a little bit more advantage versus what they have. We did end up discarding our Maximus. So I think we play Bishop here. On turn 4, we play Nightcrawler and then whatever else we drew into. On 5, we'll play Ronin. On 6, we will hopefully play Mystique and then Miles as a like kind of late game cheap power push. Ooh, and so we have Thor. That's not a bad one. We can utilize all of our energy here. Nightcrawler is going to be able to buff up our Angela, eventually move out, allow us to drop a cheap Spider-Man. I feel pretty good about where our hand's at, and I think we're going to get a decent usage out of Miles in this game. So they drop Venom, but it's not a huge Venom. So it's not like they're killing something like a Deadpool that's bouncing back with their hand. And so a 5-powered Venom I'm okay with. I don't think it's a huge issue. Ooh, and we do draw Mystique, which is huge. So now we can do, they do have a pretty small hand size, and we're not going to be able to force them to draw into anything else. So honestly, Iron Man would feel a little bit better. Oh no, Anime Freak. We wanted to drop Miles on 6. We have played Miles twice. Out of the now 3 games that we've featured, we've played Miles twice. 2 times he was pulled in by Grand Central. Feels bad. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. That one we were going to be able to naturally drop him on the board as a way to elevate either this lane or this one with a really cheap late game 5-power push in addition to our Mystique and then maybe something else. We could have dropped a Scorpion. It just allows quite a bit of flexibility on that final turn play. All right, so next up we have Evo category. And in our starting hand, we have the beautiful usage for Spider-Man here. We have Angela, we have Nightcrawler, and we have Bishop. Or we have Angela, we have Nightcrawler, and we have Miles Morales. So the question becomes, do we hold out for a turn 4 play? Typically, we don't have a great turn 4. We're on the weaker side on turn 4. So we can do Nightcrawler along with something else that allows for a late game power push, or we can do Nightcrawler early and guarantee that Miles comes out relatively early. Let's go ahead and pass this turn. I want to drop the Angela. I think pushing some additional power there is going to be pretty nice. We can't play 1 costs here. Ooh, and then we have the Thor, which is going to give us the turn 4 kind of good usage here. So we can't drop any large cards in the big house, so let's go ahead and do Angela. I think they might send us the Hood with Viper to kind of clog up our board a little bit. If so, yeah, there's the Viper. If so, that is kind of unfortunate, but I think it's okay as well. So it's now turn 3. They might have Debris here. If they have Debris, and if I was them, I would play Debris here or here to try to cap out our big house location, giving them an easy location to win. I think we're going to gamble. I think we're going to risk it and hope that they don't have their Debris. So it does look like they're not going to have a way to send it our direction. We are going to drop our... Ooh, Iceman hits our Nightcrawler, so it is a little bit more expensive now, which is kind of unfortunate. I did want to drop Thor, because he would be able to help push the big house location up just a little bit further. But Sunspot's going to be an okay kind of secondary win, or an okay like secondary play. And then we can always move Nightcrawler out. We can always copy Ronin's ability with Nightcrawler, which would be a pretty big power push into the big house. And so let's go ahead and go with this. On turn 5, we're going to naturally drop Ronin onto the board. On turn 6, we will move... Ooh, so they bounce their Demon, their Iceman, and their Viper, so they're going to be able to send us another card. So we need to keep an eye on that and know that if we are getting close to board space or that lane space, that it's a possibility. Which, I mean, the extra cards are good. They are going to be able to flood them onto the board, though. So it doesn't feel as good. The Ronin doesn't feel as strong as it could. We could use Nightcrawler. We can move him this turn. Actually, we need to move him this turn. So the question becomes, do we play something like, do we play Ronin? They have a cheap 3 cards. I think they're going to be able to flood all but maybe 1 card onto the board. So Ronin's not going to be huge here without Maximus. So let's move the Nightcrawler out. Let's go with a Thor. And we will go with a Scorpion into the same lane, or into the Hellfire lane. Let's go with the same lane. We will have Miles Morales on the last turn. If we draw into Iron Man, it feels kind of bad that we pushed all of our resources over there. But Miles Morales is going to be a bit cheaper for us. He's only going to be 1 cost. We can still drop him in combination with... Ooh, so they go with the original Spider-Man, the OG himself. Unfortunate. Now we have decisions to make. Why are you making us make decisions here? So they have 3 cards. It's going to be easiest for them to swing this location. I don't think we're ever going to get to actually play Miles Morales. This was the perfect setup game for it. And we didn't get to play him. We did have him in hand to be able to play, but we just didn't make it happen. So I was thinking about doing Mjolnir here and letting our Sunspot absorb 6 energy, pushing it to 12. They did have a demon. I think they could have won this game. They had a free demon they could have played. They could have played demon along with a America Chavez, and they would have been fine, right? Or maybe not Mjolnir, since this one's so far ahead. Maybe we would have done Miles Morales for the 5, absorbed the additional 5 with Sunspot for a 10 power play, making it a 12 power deficit. That would have been a little bit harder for them to overcome. But again, they had a free demon in hand. Maybe this is the version of the list that doesn't run America Chavez. Had it ran Chavez, they had us beaten. No matter how we played it, they would have had us beaten. But I am okay with that. We will take wins and cubes where we can. Let's go ahead and jump into the next one. I have a feeling we're going to get a Miles Morales usage here. That Miles Morales is going to come down onto the board, whether it's the optimal play line or not. Let's go ahead and jump over. All right, so next up we have Cheesable. The first location is Monster Metropolis, so we'll be able to get some upside if we have the highest or the strongest card there. But I think we probably look at stacking our cards into the Onslaught Citadel. That's going to be great for either a Ronin, a Mystique, or an Iron Man. And I think we lean into that piece of this combo. Those are like a really big power pushes. And so, ooh, goodbye, Miles. Goodbye. You remember back a second ago when I was like, you know what, we're going to use Miles and it's going to be the game-changing decision here. That's not happening anymore, guys. That is not how this game decided to go down. Unfortunately, Sokovia had other plans here. Ooh, so they discard an Apocalypse. I didn't see what they discarded from Sokovia, but they do discard Apocalypse, so we know that they're running a destruction deck, or we know that they're running a discard deck. Let's go ahead and play Nightcrawler and Thor outside of the Onslaught Citadel lane. We need a secondary lane to win. And then Thor is going to be a pretty big power push, so if we end up playing Iron Man there, that's fine. If we end up playing Ronin there, that's fine as well. And then we can always move our Nightcrawler out of the Onslaught Citadel if we feel like we need to. Okay, so they do Morbius and a Colleen Wing, which discards their Nakia. I'm not seeing it, guys. They are going to discard a lot of their cards, yes, but I'm just not seeing it as a win condition. So they're going to have a really big power play to push into Monster Metropolis. I don't think it's there. We can potentially draw into our Mystique next turn, but they cap out this location. We no longer have to worry about Onslaught Citadel, no matter how many cards they discard, so it's fine. Ronin is going to be very, very small here, but our Iron Man is going to be very, very large. So we have 44 power, no matter 52 power, 50 is a lot of power. No matter how much they push into this other lane, I think it's fine. They have 2 cards, one of which is Apocalypse. I say we split our power. They have to either drop Apocalypse or the one other card that they have. And so I think to be able to do that, I think we're fine. We just split our power. It should be an easy 8 cube. I'm not going to snap back at this point because I don't want them to retreat. Do we move our Nightcrawler out? That's going to take away 4 power, but it's going to push more here. Might as well. Might as well. We'll push Nightcrawler into Monster Metropolis as well. We have 11 power here. We have a decent power push into Monster Metropolis as well. We should be absolutely fine here. And then comes the retreat. They did the retreat later option because they realized that only dropping 1 card, all we had to do was split our power, and it was really hard for them to overcome it. So I was going to end the video on that game, but we can't end with Miles being discarded. All right, so next up we have Simber, and in our starting hand, we do have Miles Morales. Let's hope that Sokovia does not send him to the grave today. We have Sunspot. We're going to be able to play that in Mirror Dimension. Depending on what else turns up, Mindscape would be an interesting one because it would trade and then trade back, which is always really interesting to see because you get a glimpse at the opponent's kind of cards, the opponent's strategy. And so I kind of hope that Mirror Dimension turns into Mindscape and that nobody changes it, changes one of them anyways. If it turns into Titan, we don't have any 6-cost cards and they come down to a 4-cost, which is pretty big. So hopefully Simber's not running any major 6-cost cards either. Let's drop Thor into the Titan location. We're going to plan to push for the far left and far right, which actually looks like it may have been to our benefit because Lockjaw lanes can tend to be a little bit high rolly, and so it could end up being an absolutely insane push. And so let's go with, we don't go with the Bishop here. We don't have Nightcrawler out on the board. We're not going to have any cards that necessarily move unless maybe they flip into one. Let's go with the Jessica Jones into the far left. Next turn, we will go with something like a Ronin on the far right. And then we just kind of see from there. Maybe they will do a movement style card, which will help us enable our Miles Morales here. But if not, that's okay. So I feel like Iron Man is going to be a little bit more consistent. Iron Man is going to be a little bit scary because the opponent's not going to be able to flood the board. So if they have a lot of cheap cards and they flip them with Lockjaw on the last turn, that all of a sudden starts feeling really bad. We start having a 3 or 6 power Ronin, which is rough. Ooh, so they play an Arnim Zola to copy their Sunspot to the left and the right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Oh, I forgot about Mindscape. Oh, no. Okay. So we could go for a Jubilee play to try and hope that we pull into our Mystique, but I don't feel like that is the play. They have initiative. Let's go with a Maximus and a Rogue. We're going to go with Rogue into the left-hand side. If they drop a Ronin here, hoping that we have a lot of power, we can steal that away. If they drop it here, it's okay because we're going to have the 14 power push with the Titan location. So I think that should overcome the 9 power push that they're having with the Ronin. And so I think splitting it this way, I think they gave us a good resource in Rogue and they know that we have it. And so, so they played just the Ronin and that's all that they play. Very interesting. And so now their Sunspot will buff up by 1, but we know that that's not quite enough to overcome it. The Iron Man and then the top deck of Maximus was absolutely huge, absolutely critical in making sure that we won that one. Again, we didn't get to use Miles. Feels very bad. All right, so next up we have Pancake Time. And if my avatar tells me anything, it is that this game is the one where we are going to make use of Miles Morales. We hope. We haven't been able to use the movement trigger. I mean, we've had it queued up, but our opponent has not stayed until we've been able to do that full combo into fruition quite yet. And so really unfortunate. Hopefully we're able to find and make that upside here. We do have Scorpion, we have Thor, we have Nightcrawler, which we're going to be able to play on maybe on 4, along with something like a Bishop. And then on 5, if we don't draw into a better card, we can always move the Nightcrawler. Or if we don't move the Nightcrawler, then we can always play whatever we draw on 5, move it on 6 to drop a cheap Miles Morales on the board. This is going to be the game where we get usage out of Miles Morales. I'm holding on to copium here. We are hoping that this is the game that happens. Let's go ahead and drop our Thor on 4. We're going to go ahead and play a Nightcrawler into Mojo World. I know that playing him into the Mojo World is a no-no, but for me, that kind of ends at if you plan on leaving him there. Because then it's an easy Electro play, it's an easy Killmonger play, and that swings that whole location against you. Okay, and so they play a Bishop into the Isle of Silence, so they do have like an aggro type list. So just in case they do, well, they can't do a Professor X, can they? I guess if they have a Killmonger, it's going to hit it no matter where we're at. Let's go ahead and do the Killmonger. We're going to hold Mjolnir for now. We're not going to let them know that we have it. If this is an Electra, I swear I quit. So they hit their Mr. Negative on 4, so we can anticipate some like negative serotonin style cards coming in. But I think that's okay. They could have Rogue, which would steal the Mojo World location entirely. Feels really, really bad. Maybe we drop Iron Man over to the left. So it's either Iron Man left or in Mojo World. Both leave us very, very susceptible to like counterplay. We just have to wonder about which one leaves us open more or leaves us more open to it. I honestly think Mojo World leaves us a little bit more open to it. We do have to kind of anticipate maybe a potential magic play into the Isle of Silence. That's where I would target it if I was Pancake Time here, running the negative serotonin list. Okay, so they drop an Iron Man of their own in Mojo World, which feels really, really tough. That one's a really tough one to beat at this point. We do have the cheap Miles Morales, so we can go with we're going to lose the Mojo World location. If they have Rogue, it feels pretty bad. Our Mjolnir is going to buff up our Thor just a little bit, but they can steal our Iron Man's bonus. Then we end up losing. But I think we push a lot of power into the Isle of Silence, just in case they don't have magic to extend the game. But I think with this list, with the flip on curve even, I think we probably lose this one. I anticipate 2 cards here, one being like just some random card and the other being magic, but we'll see. So they drop 2 cards into the Isle of Silence. Ooh, so it's a Wolfsbane and a Sunspot. I'm wondering, it doesn't look like the Wolfsbane was inverted. Our 12 power, is that enough? How much do they absorb with Sunspot here? I think it's probably 3. I think we lose. No way. No. What? I think they were going for a read. I think they thought we would leave Mojo World completely barren and push all of our power to the Isle of Silence, which was very, very close. That was almost exactly what we did. We just happened to have Mjolnir in hand, which allowed us to push some power into Mojo World. We had the pretty big 4 energy play of Maximus and Spider-Man, or Miles Morales, that pushed us up to 12. Even after all of this, we tied, and we won the left and right. Absolutely incredible. With that win, it is only a 2 cube, but we did get to use Miles Morales naturally onto the board. We beat a negative serotonin, or I think it's a negative serotonin. Maybe it's just a negative aggro list. But either way, we did beat them. I think we got lucky. We definitely got pretty fortunate that they didn't have something like a Rogue, which could have stolen our Iron Man's ability, and then at that point we would have been probably lost. But we are going to go ahead and end the video here. I'm going to continue tinkering and brewing with Miles Morales. I do have a cheeky, fun build. I don't know how consistent it's going to be, but the next video is going to be featured around a fun build for Miles Morales that I think you guys will enjoy. So make sure to stick around if you want to see more of this build and potentially the fun build live in a less structured way. I am going to be doing a lunch live stream between 10 and 10:30 Central Standard Time. We should be live. If you want to get the notification, make sure that you're subscribed and you have the notification bell checked. But as always, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like and a comment down below. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.